Hey guys, Drifter here. Today we've got a rare video for you where philosophy and pop culture are smashing together because I really want to see The Flash. It looks like a fun movie, but I don't want to support Ezra Miller because of the horrible crimes he has committed and is still probably continuing. And what I don't quite get is why DC still supports this guy, and it makes me not want to enjoy the DC stuff that I've been watching so much of lately. Also, in case you're curious why I'm doing this in a 1989 scimitar tank top and looking greasy, it's because it was recorded during the heat dome in Texas. It's about 105 outside, about 130 something heat index, and it's even miserable indoors, so I'm just sweating here. So anyway, it's no secret that I'm a nerdy guy. I enjoy all sorts of nerdy and weird stuff. You could say I read a lot of comic books, mostly Image comics, but I do read DC, Marvel, and anything I find interesting, and my God, have I done some reading here. When it comes to watching things, I have a broader palette, not just Image stuff. Marvel, I watched a lot of. It's kind of lost me after Endgame, and it's kind of generic and PG-13 and blending together. However, DC caught my attention mostly with their R-rated stuff. I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad. I really enjoyed the Peacemaker spinoff. I've enjoyed a lot of Justice League Dark, and even the first Shazam movie was not bad. And honestly, even though it's not dark and mature and broody, My Adventures with Superman looks like the exact opposite, like a really wholesome, fun Superman. So I'm kind of moving off of Marvel and onto DC, but the problem is that DC seems to support Ezra Miller. And moving back to the first topic, I kind of want to see the Flash movie. It looks like a fun alternate universe, alternate take. We got two Flashes, we got female Superman, we got the old Batman. I don't know, maybe it'll be on streaming soon since it's bombing at the box office, since a lot of viewers seem to agree with me. But what's bizarre about all of this isn't that just one movie happened, but that DC and Warner Brothers films seemed to be okay continuing to pour millions, if not billions of dollars into various projects with Ezra Miller, even though he's out there actively committing crimes. And when I talk about crimes, Ezra Miller has been, I don't think convicted somehow, but he's been accused of human trafficking, kidnapping, grooming, a variety of sexual assault stuff, being violent and combative and fighting people just seemingly at random, extreme paranoia, difficulty to work with. And DC just seems to think that they have a star. It doesn't seem to make them uncomfortable because they're still putting him in content and they're still paying him. So the content is still funding Ezra Miller and we gotta have the best lawyer on the planet to keep getting away with this. And I personally just don't feel comfortable with that. So today we're going to talk about a concept called death of the author, which is a fancy way to say, how do I separate the art from the artist? Because there's a lot of fantastic art out there that have been created by really horrible artists. Get a little textbook on you. Death of the author is defined as a concept from the mid-20th century literary criticism movement that holds that an author's intentions and biographical facts, being their politics, religion, etc., should hold no special weight in determining an interpretation or value of their writing. And I think one of the best examples of this is, I think, Orson Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game. Less so the movie, but more so the book is a fantastic piece of sci-fi literature and one of the most endearing pieces of humanist literature that I've ever read in my life, which is sort of an alternative fancy version of atheism. Yet Orson Scott Card later in life said that it was supposed to be a religious allegory. It was supposed to convert people to Christianity, Mormonism, if I'm not mistaken. And he even got involved with a violent attempt to overthrow the US government that wasn't January 6th. He was planning his own uprising on the side. So it's hard to go back and read Ender's Game and try to get that same value and understanding out of it while knowing the author's politics, religion, and a variety of his more bizarre biographical facts. So the reason that a lot of people, at least in the literary movement, go with death of an author is because what was intended to be accomplished in a work and what was actually accomplished are sometimes wildly different things. Sometimes people make a work that is supposed to promote something and it ends up being a parody of that thing, or a criticism of something. A Fight Club would be a good example. Tyler Durden is the bad guy, but ultimately most of the people that read Fight Club end up identifying with and liking that character. So intentions and accomplishments can be quite different. What a work means to people will also change over time. Like what Gone with the Wind meant to people when it came out is probably very different than what it means to people today. Same with Birth of a Nation, which I hope to God we're not showing any clips of. That's a bad one. And tons tons of other works get changed over time because people come back and reanalyze through a new lens. They add a new criticism, new movements are born, and it can connect with people in the future because it just sort of culturally lines up right. And this philosophy even says that the author's own thoughts on their work after it was published are essentially just another form of analysis and no more or less valid than anybody else's criticism or analysis, because the work is done, it's published, it's complete, it is what it is, and you can only say so much about it afterwards to change it, which all of this is just kind of a fancy way to say that your opinions and what you like are more important than anything else, that how you feel about a work and what it means to you and what it inspires you to do is much more important than anything that the author had intended. However, not everybody agrees with this philosophy. There is an opposite opinion that doesn't have such a cool, fancy, easily Googleable name, but I'm going to go through it pretty quickly here. The opposite opinion is that intentions do matter because they will inevitably succeed for at least some viewers. That if you want to make a work promoting something, and even if it's a total failure and is often used as a criticism of that thing, for some percentage of viewers it will be successful, be it propaganda or just I like pancakes better than waffles or some kind of that nonsense. That intentions matter because they succeed sometimes. And it also matters who supports the work and what they support, because most of the media that you ingest, be it reading or playing games or watching something on a stream, is monetized in some way. There's some sort of financial exchange there in some bizarre capacity that supports the author, just like watching ads or getting YouTube Premium supports me. And you're passing on money to this person. So it's important to know what person you're passing money to and how they spend that money, what they do with it, what they support. The more pop culture example right now is J.K. Rowling, who's broadly been anti-trans for a while now and made it very, very clear that she will spend her money on anti-trans things. So when you're buying Harry Potter merchandise or enjoying new movies and books, in some way, in some small way, you're funding anti-trans rights stuff in the United Kingdom. There's also just a general artistic belief or question of, should we even celebrate failed works? Now, this is one I disagree with because I'm a huge fan of bad movies. I like movies that are so bad they're funny, which are failed works, but that's different in a kind of way. You're actually watching it and criticizing it. It's more like, should we celebrate works that tried to achieve something important and failed miserably? And some artists would say no. And I'll have a really harsh example of the opposite here. For those of you that do agree with Death of the Author, that what you take away from it is more important than anything else regarding the production or who was involved, this example will make you reevaluate that. So, for example, in Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s, there was a filmmaker named Leni Riefenstahl. Very hard to pronounce that one. And they made a variety of works for the Nazi Party. Perhaps the most famous one is Triumph of the Will. And we have to be really careful about what pictures and screenshots are shown here. And Triumph of the Will is something that was funded and at least partially written by the Nazi Party of Germany while they were exterminating Jews. However, the director, who also did some of the production and screenwriting, says that their work should be celebrated as a pure work of art independent of its politics, and that when she made this film, she really didn't have any particular political intentions or affiliations. She just wanted to make the best film that she could, given the circumstances of where she was. But the circumstances of where she was Nazi Germany. The Nazi Party funded the film, the Nazi Party secured the locations, the Nazi Party was heavily involved in production, and this example, historically, you can even see production notes where the Nazis specifically requested certain things be removed and other things be added in to further their ideology, and the director, Leni Riefenstahl, was just okay with it and just went along with it, and it was no problem. And when it was all said and done, and I think most of us would agree that Nazis are bad people and that their goals are bad and that you don't want to support the Nazi Party, the director still believes that she has a work of art that has no other intentions, no other influences, no other ill omens other than what people take away from it. But I think most of us watching this video would be very uncomfortable watching something that at the time funded the Nazi Party. So that's kind of an extreme opposite example, but I think it's an important one because you have to accept that there's a real world problem going on here. And now at the very end, I'm going to offer you my personal opinions. I will watch and enjoy works from people that are crummy or perhaps people that have bad opinions, but I do have limits. For example, Nicolas Cage cheated on his taxes. but he hasn't beat anybody, he hasn't raped anybody, he hasn't hurt anything. He just bought too many castles and didn't pay taxes on them. The guy that plays Homelander, Anthony Starr, is a pretty bad person in real life. He's rude to people, he gets in fights with people, he's combative and paranoid and all that stuff, but he's not committing major crimes, and the money that we give to him is primarily just funding his exorbitant lifestyle. Or a more political example, this is probably a little bit more for the older audience here. I love James Woods as an actor. I know him as the porn-addicted lead in Videodrome, fantastic movie, we reviewed that one. Most of you probably know him as Hades from Hercules. The guy's a great actor, he's funny in almost every role, plenty of talent, but man, if you get on his social media, he has what are, to me, very bad political opinions. That mouth is just going, saying crazy stuff all the time, and I don't particularly like it, and I don't particularly like him as a person, but I do respect him as an actor because he's entertaining. And for the most part, there are, again, limits here, but running your mouth on social media isn't something that bothers me a whole lot. However, I won't watch works that fund people who are actively doing harm to others. Ezra Miller being the perfect example for this. Ezra Miller, if you go read the list of accusations that you can find on Google, it is like 20 or 30 pages long, going back decades, multiple court cases, multiple countries. They had Interpol involved, state police, lawyers, kidnapping, horrible, horrible, awful, going straight to hell kind of stuff. And he's still getting paid by DC. He's still getting funded. They're still shielding him from all of this responsibility from his actions. Another good example would be like Roman Polanski. He touched a lot of young kids. And because of that, no matter how good of a director he is, no matter how artistic he is, no matter how talented or exceptional the works are, when I watch them, I can't help but to think, a little bit of the money that I just spent to watch this is going to support somebody who's probably abusing children right now. And that's something that I can't get on board with. Similarly, I'm not on board with Harry Potter and the anti-trans stuff from J.K. Rowling. Then again, I was never the biggest Harry Potter fan, so that's not the biggest loss for me. So personally, people have to be pretty bad before I don't watch, but I do have limits. I don't listen to Lost Prophets anymore, for obvious reasons there. I don't watch Kevin Spacey films. That's just sort of my personal philosophy, is that if what is going on with the work is actively funding something I don't agree with, I'm not going to engage with it because I don't want to fund or support that thing. But people just being crummy or actors being bad or committing minor crimes is a part of life. I don't worry about that. So that's kind of the very shortest possible version of this video, of this philosophical topic. This is one that if I really wanted to expand on could easily be like an hour-long video, but I think you all get the point. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. And if you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.